Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm going to be talking about the full moon in Cancer on the 2nd of January at 2:24 a.m. Universal Time, and outlining the themes that the full moon itself plus its aspects highlight to us. So with the full moon in Cancer, we're talking about the Sun in Capricorn opposed to the moon in Cancer, and with the moon being the ruler of this full moon being in her home sign, and the Cancer energy maybe felt particularly strong at this point. So with Cancer, we're looking at our internal nature, our emotional subterranean world. So it's the personal unconscious. It's a part of us that only we as individuals can access. No one else can access that particular part of us because it's personal. It's something that only we can tap into. So it's our responsibility to keep this area clean, if you like. So it's removing or getting rid of conditioning in this area is part of our responsibility. So with the full moon, we're dealing with balance in Capricorn and Cancer. So with the Sun in Capricorn, this is the monthly theme of looking at our things like our integrity, our reputation, and our public identity, and looking at where are these things out of line with one another. Where are we wearing masks, and where do we need to let go of these masks in order to be our true self, to pursue the goals that are right for us, rather than doing things which sound good but they're not actually aligned with who we are as individuals. And we'll know if it's wrong for us because no matter how successful we get at something, we'll probably feel like a fraud doing it, because or feel like nagging insecurity, purely because what we're doing is, yes, we're climbing a mountain, but it's not the right one for us. We're kind of doing something that would be better suited for someone else, and we need to be doing something that is aligned with who we are. But to do this, we need to understand who we are first. We have to do that internal work of knowing who we are, knowing what are our skills, what are our resources, what are our dreams, what do we believe in, how well are we connected with our creativity, do we have the discipline and commitment in order to see a goal out to its completion. So these are all aspects of that we need to understand in order to manifest the highest point of Capricorn, because if we don't know who we are, then we are more likely to be swayed by things like social approval, and to let social approval decide what we do with our lives rather than understanding who we are as individuals and finding a niche that is aligned with who we are and our skill sets, and allows us to express ourselves in the public sphere without having to wear masks, without having to pretend to be something that we're not in order to get ahead. So we all have our own individual niches, but we have to do the internal work in order to find them. They're not just going to magically appear to us. We have to actually do the work of understanding ourselves first. And the moon can help remind us of this. The moon gets us in touch with our core self, our subterranean world, the dreams which we hold. And it's also about letting go of past conditioning. So this could be events in childhood, or there could be more recent events, but they're things where Cancer contains all the emotional residue of things. It's about, if we look at our emotions and understanding what thoughts triggers them, because how often do we suddenly have a rapid change in mood and no external event has actually caused it. No one has said anything to us at that point. Nothing has happened. Yet we've suddenly had this emotional change, and more often than not, what's happened is we've thought about something, whether consciously or subconsciously, and due to past conditioning, an emotional response tied to that, a previous event that mirrored that, is triggered. So with the full moon in Cancer, this is an opportunity for us to let go of that conditioning, to let go of the tendency to emotionally respond to something which hasn't actually happened. We've just responded to a thought based on the past event, but that past event isn't happening now. It's not the truth. It's just something that the ego is holding on to in order to confirm its existence or justify its existence, and it triggers an emotional response as a result. So it's an opportunity to separate our emotional responses from our past experiences, to create that gap of objectivity, to understand that if we can let go of past fears, past conditioning, these in themselves can help us move closer towards the goal of being authentic, because we're stripping away what isn't who we are to leave the part that is just us. And by being connected to our core, we can avoid the shadow of Capricorn, which is wearing masks while pursuing something that isn't aligned with ourselves. Because by being connected with our core, we know who we are, and we know if something is in alignment with ourselves or not. And if we can remember that with Capricorn, its controlling nature isn't geared towards our emotions, it's meant to be applied to our actions. It's achieving supreme self-control and self-mastery through being in control of our actions, of developing patience, perseverance and self-discipline in order to pursue a goal that is worthwhile. But for us to know that goal and to have to go for the right actions that are objectively correct and will achieve a goal in the long run, we need to know who we are deep down. And this full moon gives us the opportunity to do this. Now, the other planets in close proximity, we have Venus in Capricorn at the moment, so this could well indicate she's in a close conjunction with the Sun, and Pluto is in a wide conjunction with the Sun, because the Sun is moving towards Pluto, so in about a week's time the Sun and Pluto will be together exactly. But this is also indicating, with Venus in Capricorn at this point, we may well find ourselves looking at our relationships and looking at it from the perspective of commitment and long-term, or its long-term potential. And are we committed to our relationships? Are we committed to the person that we're with, or do we not really feel that commitment? And likewise, is the other person demonstrating commitment as well? So it's looking at relationships from a practical perspective and looking at, is the relationship stable? Are both sides committed? If not, why? And is this a relationship that we want to recommit to remember our commitments and to reinforce them in our relationships? With Pluto being nearby, this is also a point where we may find ourselves needing to change challenge our sense of who we are, to understand the deeper nature. Pluto is like a laser that cuts through everything. It penetrates right into the heart of anything and gets to its objective is to get to the core of any given issue, pull it to the surface and get it cleansed, if you like. So it's to purify it, to split off and remove what is stagnant or corrupt or that is operating in the shadow, and highlight it to us. Say, well, this is where you're operating in the shadow. Are you prepared to transform this and become a better individual, or are you going to let the shadow go unchallenged and let it undermine your objectives, let the desire for power blind you to who you are, and for you to, or are you going to cling to the feeling of being a victim or being powerless in order to justify any actions we may take to try and control other people? So this is the Pluto side. But these are all conjunct to the Sun. We also have Jupiter in Scorpio and Mars in Scorpio together in a conjunction, forming a trine to the Moon and a sextile to the Sun. And we also have Neptune in Pisces forming a trine and sextile to the Sun and Moon. So together they create a kite formation. So Jupiter and Neptune serve as outlets to relieve some of the tension of the opposition between the Sun and the Moon. With Jupiter and Mars in Scorpio, this is about going into the shadow, of facing things at the core of our being, deep-seated fears that have an almost primal feeling to them, and to make the unconscious conscious. So go down into the unconscious mind and explore it, explore the shadow, bring the light to the shadow, and through identifying which desires are who we are and which desires are egoic, so they're not aligned with the soul. We can purify our desires and purify our relationship with power, so that power is not something that we define as our ability to manipulate the environment around us or manipulate other people. We recognise that power has always been within us, and as such we can harness this power and use it in our lives, not just for personal gain, but if we go through the phoenix stage of purifying it and moving into transpersonal consciousness and conscious sharing of mutuality and shared trust, then we can let go of the need of power plays and we can start working together, because we recognise that we're just one soul of 7 billion, but we share a planet with these 7 billion other people. So we need to work together. We need to overcome the need for need to achieve security or controlling other people, to let go of that and honour the spark in each other through transforming our sense of self and being a light to other people. And if they choose to go through the process, great. If not, that is their choice. We all have free will. And the other one I mentioned was Neptune in Pisces. With Neptune in Pisces, this is bringing, to some extent it may feel like it's bringing a lot of chaos, but that depends on how closely we tie our identity with the status quo and how rigid our sense of self is, or how reluctant we are to embrace change. But it's also about opening up to or surrendering to higher power. It's learning that underneath everything there is actually a higher order. There is more. Sometimes we have to allow current situations to dissolve and go through a period of chaos in order for a better scenario or better situation to unveil itself to us. But it requires us to have faith, because Pisces is very much about the unknown. It's the surrendering to the universal, and this isn't necessarily easy because it's the ego undergoes dissolution here. It's dissolved to strip away the conditioning that gets in the way of maintaining separation consciousness rather than unity consciousness. So if we can tap into the higher levels of Pisces though through things like meditation, we can move away from the shadow of Pisces, which is things like escapism, of illusion, of addictions, and we can achieve things like universal love, achieve greater empathy, greater psychic connection, greater connection to our intuition as long as we honour it, and to feel that universal love and recognise that yes, we are all one. We have to take care of ourselves as individuals. We can't just go around with no boundaries whatsoever. We do need to be discerning, but if we can feel that universal love and radiate it out to other people in a way that doesn't drain us, we still feel connected to that energy constantly, because we're constantly filling ourselves up with this universal love to the point that it's flowing over us. So the energy that people are getting from us isn't being pulled from our inside. It's already overflowing from us, and they're benefiting from it passively just by being in our space. But we have to do the work first of overcoming any addictions and learning to connect with the Piscean energy, which isn't always easy, because Pisces is the one energy that the ego can't really get any grasp on, because it's pure spirit. It's not a physical thing. It's not the part of the illusion world. It's about understanding the spiritual nature of everything, and that everything is energy. So it's the dissolution of structures, the dissolution of form, to release spirit and recognise our spiritual nature and the fact that we are one. So I had this useful guide for the full moon. There's a lot going on with it, but it brings us many opportunities. But as usual, we have to take advantage of it, or we have to choose to do this. It doesn't happen to us automatically. It doesn't control us. It's just an influence and an opportunity to know ourselves at a deeper level, to let go of things and emotional responses which are no longer applicable to our lives because we've moved on from or our lives have changed from the past, and we've only got the residue from the past left over. It's a time of clearing out the residue in order to move on. So I hope that's a useful guide for you, and may the full moon bring you much illumination and many blessings. Take care.